Welcome to yet another edition of the League of the Genuine. Every Friday from 8 p.m. we are here to discuss all things counterfeit, all things fake products and services. We thank you for those who have been with us. We appreciate very much the fact that you're viewing us, that you like our show, that you're telling a friend to tell a friend about it, because this is a show that is benefiting anybody on this planet called a consumer, because we are all consumers of various products and services. We have been handling counterfeits in the mobile telephone sector. We have dealt with phone repairs. Those who have followed us the past weeks, you have seen former technicians talking about the challenges faced at the service centers, the loss of data and information when you leave your phone behind, the application of fake spares, mouthpiece, screens when you go to repair your phones. And we feel that it would have been best that we have a regulator of the sector to also come and weigh in, tell us more about what their role is, what you need to know as consumers. Can you go to them in case of an issue? This is going to be the subject of this discussion. And in the studio, we have none other than somebody in charge of security issues at the Uganda Communications Commission, because the loss of your information or your data is a security issue as well. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Jimmy Haguma, who is a Chief Security Officer at the Uganda Communications Commission. Jimmy, you're welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Fred, and to those who are watching. Just like you said, I'm Jimmy Haguma, in charge of the Chief Security Officer, and work with compliance and enforcement. Our task is majorly ensure that those that we have licensed are actually following the licensing regime and agreements. And if there are those who are actually breaching anything within the communication sector, we then come in to ensure that we apprehend them or make sure that we arbitrate on some matters and see that we conclude such matters with the laws that we work with. Our principal law is the Uganda Communications Act of 2013. And we also have different licensing guidelines that have actually been passed, the latest of 2019, different regulations in terms of the film industry, regulations in terms of content and multimedia, regulations in terms of the Uganda Communications and Emergency Response Team, which is the SAT, and now another interesting regulation on the Central Equipment Identity Register that oversees.
That's where the fake phones fall.
That's where all these non-type approved phones can be detected. And also we look at standards like GSMA standards for.
Jimmy, you've just said that you apprehend. That's quite exciting, because people come here complaining about this or that in the sector. So your promise is that if you leave here with sufficient information, you'll apprehend. But let's start with the Uganda Communications Commission. People would need to know exactly what it is you do, which you've explained a bit. But by just looking at your name, Uganda Communications Commission, our understanding is that you're supposed to facilitate communication of the consumers. People should be able to talk to each other and so on. But recently, you actually were doing the opposite. You stopped communication through the internet. Is that part of your mandate, to shut down the internet?
Looking at communication or access to information is actually a universal right, and it's enshrined within the human rights declaration that people have right to access to information. But of course, that doesn't presuppose.
It's also in the Constitution. I think Article 27.
Yes, that
the right to communication.
Exactly. So that doesn't presuppose the fact that much as you have the right to communicate, it is not in its own that you can have it 100%. There are instances whereby, for example, if this right is going to cause another effect, many times we have seen that social media or the internet could actually be abused. This right could be abused by other people. either for fueling, for example, propaganda that may cause national insecurity
and violence.
So our task is to ensure that this communication framework, you enjoy it in a safe environment. And so when there are instances whereby there are threats, national threats, there are likelihoods of abuse, then this right could be denied for just a momentary time. Just like, for example, you have the right to drive, you have the right to walk at any time, but we have seen during the COVID-19, at one point we were in lockdown. Nobody who could believe that I have to stay home.
That leads me to I've seen in the UCC Act, there is the issue of public interest. I know that the UCC can act in the public interest to switch off and on as they want. How do you define public interest at the UCC? Is it what you think, or how do you get to know that this is what the people want?
Actually, as the UCC, our clients are you, the subscribers, you who need to use these services. And so there are methods that you get what we call the interests of the public. Right, one of them is right from the law that we look at. The UCC Act defines clearly the public are the people. And so how do we get their views? We have different players that come in. We have different creators, we have different platforms, we have different content, and all these people give us feedback on what the interest of the public is. So we don't do what we think or what we wish. We do what the public actually desires us
to do. The public, according to the feedback, and we thank you for the feedback we've gotten on this subject, the public interest, according to the feedback we have, is that they are interested in having quality telecommunication services. But one of the issues that has arisen here is that they are not having the desired quality phone repair services, which is an auxiliary service, in my view, to the mobile telephone service. Can you tell us what role the UCC has to play when it comes to repair? If I take my phone for repair to the service center of a telecommunications company, what role do you play?
From the communication aspect, from the commission aspect, we do not oversee the repair of a phone. We actually license the element of, is this communication device, is it approved to be on communication? Is it type approved? And once we have ensured that the equipment is type approved, the model is type approved, then we clear that model to be used. But when it comes to repair, the standards of repair, that actually we know that some of these repair centers are within the customer service centers. That is now left to another body to run its mandate. But what we call upon is for people to be able to use what you call a type approved phone. If you can allow, I could just shed light to you on what the type approval process is.
Maybe before you go there, the argument is made in some circles that phone repair is a value-added service under the telecommunications license UCC issues. Is that true, that you have value-added service? I thought you license a specific service. Do you have other implied value-added service you license?
No, not at all. Because we license the operator, we license the telecom operator to ensure that they provide quality of service. They provide this service of communication that it can be accessed by people, and people can be able to enjoy these services. Now, when it comes to phone repair, it means that your phone probably has got malfunction or has got a challenge. Now, that's
so
the
you're
argument.
Not concerned with
No, we do not. I don't want to say we are not concerned, but that is not our area of license.
So how are these telecoms then having the phone repairs in?
Now, that's like we call it after-sale service. Most of it, they call it the after-sale service, because you're using a mobile phone, you have a vehicle, at one point it will go down, and so you need to go and have it fixed. So the standard now, these are equipment. Most of the time, the repairs is dealing with spare parts, not so. Or if it's a malfunction, for example, a software issue, they could be able to deal with it. If it's an equipment they are going to add on, then there is another body, the standards body, that oversees the UNBS, exactly, that is charged with the mandate of looking at what are the standards, what are the equipment they are using. But as it's measured to see that the operator is working within their licensing obligation.
Jimmy here, Chief Security Officer, Uganda Communications Commission, says that they approve the type of phones that are used in the country. And I'm sure many of you will agree that we have a lot of fake phones. So Jimmy, how do you get to approve fake phones we find on the market? Is that something you also do? How do we get the fake phones on the market?
Let's start with understanding the sector in terms of communication occurs on brands on different devices. And most of these devices could be GSM devices, could be radio frequency devices. So with type approval, it's a requirement that every importer, every dealer of these devices, once they have been brought into the country, they're supposed to have ensured that they type approve them before they ship them into the country.
So meaning that somebody imports 100 pieces, sends you a sample before they pay taxes. Is that what you mean?
No.
And if the sample is meeting the specifications, then he'll pay the taxes and
then they will be approved to now
and then they'll enter
bring
into the
them
market.
into the market. Yes.
Yeah, but one time we were dealing with, I think, Uganda Revenue Authority or UNBS, and they were saying that UCC delays to approve, to do that type approval, and sometimes the importer is impatient, and so the phones get released. Are you having issues with approving?
Not at
the
all.
phone types?
It's a seamless process. You
How long
do
does
it
it
online.
take? Online?
It's online. You have to apply. The importer, there is a form they have to fill online, and then they will provide the specs of this type of device, what it's going to be. Majorly, it's a model. And thereafter, it will be subjected to a verification with the GSM. We have now a link with the Global System for Mobile Communication Association. And then they will look into the specs. They will look at what we call the International Mobile Equipment Identifier, which is the IMEI. That IMEI actually will define this type of model. And then we'll be able to tell you that this device is fit for communication. And you'll be issued with a type approval certificate or license.
So how do the fake phones, which many people buy, you buy the phone today, tomorrow the guy stops stocking completely, or it cannot charge. How do those phones get onto the market?
There are many players. The importation is now the role of, we have the customs under the Uganda Revenue Authority. We have other agencies that oversee these devices coming into the country. This could be people who are maybe smuggling in such equipment. And so many a times we have gone, if I were just to refresh my mind, at one point we carried out an operation, that was 2019, looking out for these non-type approved. Actually, technically we call them non-type approved, but this is what they call fake phone or counterfeit phones. And these were found in certain people's shops. So many times when you go to buy, probably as the customer, as the consumer, when you walk into a pharmacy, you want to look out for if they have actually a license. When you walk into a bank, you want to see if they have a license from the central bank. So if someone is dealing in communication equipment, is dealing in phones, you want to ask them, it's very important that you ask them, may I look at your type approval license? If they do not have it, please, you walk away.
Jimmy, what are those phones which are not type approved, or what are those phones which are fake? Can you tell the viewers what those phones are? Do they have names? How do they look like?
Well, I could start by, for example, a non-type approved phone could be one that doesn't meet GSM standards. For example, I wouldn't say it's this brand or this particular brand, because certain people have gone ahead to create a name similar to a particular brand. Say it could be Nokia, and it actually looks like Nokia on the outer. But when you open the chassis, you look at the serial number. The serial number that is on that device is not the serial number that you get when you dial *#06#. Some of these could be, for example, if you look at the battery make of this phone should be the same as the brand make of this particular phone. Many times you just buy a phone in a box and you walk away. You don't even go to test it. Sometimes they want to say, let's test if it works.
They will not allow you to open the box unless you're paid. They say if you open, you have to buy.
Very, very true. But it is your right to know that what am I buying? it is your right to know what you are buying.
So it has to be tested.
It has to be tested. Today,
Before
if I
you
am
pay.
buying a bulb in a shop, they have to remove it out, put it and test it. You're not buying a box. Suppose you're picking a stone. So it's very important to know that this type of phone I'm buying has the right IMEI, which you call the International Mobile Equipment Identifier. Many are times...
Where is that number? Because some viewers may
want to
Can you
see.
open a phone and you show us
Now,
the...
my type of phone is a locked phone. I will need screws
You
to
have
open
an
it.
open one.
I don't
Mine
have
is also
a
locked.
light. Most
Where
of
is the
these...
IMEI? Is
now,
it found near the battery?
Now, there are 3 areas
Where
you can
put
find
the
it.
SIM card?
On this very phone, once it's switched on, you can go to About Me, About Phone. You will find the serial number. It's not an app as such. It's part of the settings that come along with the phone. In the settings, you see the settings are what you call default. They tell you what this phone is. But also if you dial the universal code *#06#, you should be able to find an IMEI like this.
Can you dial and we see if your phone is
Exactly.
genuine?
I have seen these are the 2 IMEI that are there in my phone. But these same numbers, you can write them somewhere or screenshot this, keep it, and then go to the settings. These same numbers...
So if the phone is fake and you dial, what comes?
If the phone is fake and you dial, first of all, if it doesn't generate an IMEI, that's the first test, because the *#06# is an international USSD code for GSM devices.
To check whether the phone is genuine.
Yes, that's the first step. The second step is to confirm that this number matches with what is inside. Many times, even on the chassis of the box, they have written specific serial numbers. On your receipt or payment, they will indicate these numbers.
Jimmy, you've heard of cloning.
Yep.
We've heard that those numbers can be cloned.
Very true.
So you have the same number appearing for several phones.
Yes.
So your dial is correct, but it's a clone.
Yes. Now, we've acquired a solution which is called the Equipment Identifier. Equipment Identifier is an interlinkage of these different brand makers. And discussions are still underway with different stakeholders. But what is going to happen with such clone phones is they will be switched off automatically. Now, for you who is buying, many a times you will discover this, that this same phone, if we look into Equipment Identifier, you will identify that one IMEI is being shared across multiple SIM cards. All right? Different IMEI, different SIM cards on one IMEI. So what we've been aiming at is, we've been informing people, please look at the type of phone you have, where you bought it from, and by the time we finish the discussion, what is going to happen, these type of devices will be turned off. And we are informing the subscribers time and again to be conscious, where are you picking this phone? If you bought it from a service center and you have a receipt, and you'll get any challenge that it will be turned off, you'll have the right to take it back to the service center. And
I'll
speak
for the consumer here. If you as regulator have a plan at some point to switch off or disable a phone,
to disable these non-type approved
consumer, you know, an argument might be made that, look, I have gone onto the market, I have paid, bought a phone from somebody who is licensed, and he's operating in the open, he's not being arrested, he's not a criminal, so why should I lose that phone? Don't you think the argument might be that you need more sensitization? Because I'm sure many people don't know about what you're talking about. Don't you think as UCC you might need a more robust and aggressive sensitization campaign so that the consumers, the public buys in and also supports that operation eventually when it's done to switch off?
I agree with you absolutely. And that is why we've been having, for example, the consumer parliaments, moving to different regions, getting feedback like what we are doing here. I have to applaud you guys for this initiative, because this brings in more feedback. Probably you have also a wider group or a wider network that you are reaching. Through these engagements, we've been getting this feedback. And definitely it's not going to be that one day you're going to come and just switch off, because there are a lot of dynamics, discussions, engagements with the operator, engagements with the brand owners and the subscribers themselves who are directly providing this support.
Okay, so for the listeners and viewers out there, the UCC is saying that it is important you have a genuine phone. There is a way you can identify the genuine phone, and that through participatory approach, through engagement, we shall all be involved and get to learn
Sure.
how to make sure we buy a genuine phone. And I'm even told that if the phone is fake, somebody was telling me at the Ministry of ICT that part of the reason why sometimes we have poor network with some of the telcos is because there are many fake phones on the network that when you plug into the network with a fake phone, you affect the quality of the service. You've heard of that?
Yes, I can just shed more light on that, Fred. If your phone is non-type approved, if it's non-type approved, what happens is that it could cause interference with those that are on the communication. But even yourself, you will be having a lot of what you call drops probably, all right? You may find this very phone is actually likely to heat up, could cause more effect. It's a health hazard to you, the user, because it is likely to burn you up. Some of them heat up. We've seen scenarios where every time you take the phone to charge, once it's full and you pick it, it's like a hot plate. It's not supposed to be like that. So on top of just the health hazard to you, there's also the poor quality of reception, and then it cannot do what we call in communication, we call it handshake or switching over from one cell to another cell. So you'll find that you are having challenges with hearing, and many a times people will then run to a phone repair, say that my mouthpiece is dead, my earpiece is dead. But actually it could not be the issue. It could be just the type of device you are using is not
or what we
type
call
approved.
a fake phone.
It's a fake phone. It's a
fake phone.
counterfeit phone. So you find that you will spend a lot of money. You will never leave the technician's workshop. He will fix this, you'll go for this. These equipment have what we call the EOL, which is called the end of life. There's a period of time for which now it has to be disposed of. And of course, there's a discussion going on e-waste, which is another...
Is that something that UCC gets into?
Yes, it's...
Once the phone has ended its life, we know it can be dangerous to the environment. How is the disposal? How is the management
now
of that waste?
That is management disposal. That goes to another agency, which is the NEMA, which is responsible for environmental management. But of course, it's a hybrid of different players. And a discussion is underway in terms of e-waste. How do we dispose of some of these phones? Okay, how do we dispose them? Because some of them have radioactive substances within. But worst case, those that are fake, which you have called fake, will have a more effect because they have been using different materials that may be more dangerous even to the environment.
Jimmy, we have in the past few years had cases reported by the brand owners, the manufacturers. I think we saw it in Samsung. There was a certain series that Samsung came out and issued a statement. The phone was heating up and they recalled all those phones. I didn't see any recall of that Samsung. I don't know what, S something. In Uganda, isn't UCC concerned enough about us using those recalled phones here? How do you handle that?
The issue of recalling a phone, or if a phone doesn't meet a standard, probably after it has been type approved, probably the maker of this equipment detects a fall or detects a malfunction in it, it now goes back to the UNBS because it is their role to manage standards. And so that is their part to play. For us, we stop on the aspect of type approving. And we type approve based on the specifications that have been provided globally. So I believe that would be now a responsibility for another agency to go ahead and recall.
So you're saying that at the Ugandan level, at the East African level, you have nothing as communications regulators to do with recall of fake phones when the brand owner has admitted that they are fake?
No, if the brand owner has admitted that this equipment is fake and we have already done the type approval, we work together with the agency that is responsible for standards to ensure that this is dealt with appropriately.
This mobile phone has led to a new species of crimes called cyber crimes. You have had a lot of people losing data breaches, losing money. Phones are actually used by criminals. Somebody goes, registers, or gets a line, uses it and throws it away, committing crimes. To what extent has cyber crime, and you'll tell us the different aspects of it, to what extent has it affected the enjoyment of telecommunication services? How are consumers' experience affected? Can you comment on that?
Because of the high infinity or the high absorption of communication services, which are now easy with the mobile phone. Previously, we used to stick to the desktops, and then the mobile phones came in, and the mobile phones moved away just from text and voice to what we call the data services, where you have access to the internet. And now with also the proliferation of different accounts, which we now call the social networking sites, social media, different players, we realize that we have more people or more accounts on social media. And so the criminals who were traditional also moved onto that platform. And some of these effects have been very detrimental. For example, we've seen scenarios where people's identity has been taken, which you call identity theft. Because today we are speaking with you, Fred, but I have your photos are all over, probably on your profile or somewhere, and I can create an account in your names because the platform has been created. There is no cost. There is no cost involved. You can go ahead. We've seen platforms like Twitter introducing things like parody accounts, issues like satire and mockery. Okay, so many times the consumers or the subscribers will not differentiate the genuine account from the fake account because it contains the credentials for the person that be. And so we've seen people falling prey to issues like, say, information leakage, which we call phishing. Someone will create a site, I'm recruiting so many people in this company, and then you click on this link to pay money. We've seen an upscale of now, say, theft of money from banks because you have now moved away from walking to the bank. You now use internet banking. And how do these criminals access? They will use social engineering. I need to persuade you, to convince you that I have a genuine product. And so that's why they introduce some of these fake, we call them cloning of websites. Just like we're talking of cloning of mobile phones, people clone websites. And all this is part of the technology. And then we've seen abuse of privacy. For example, what we call unconsensual disclosure of private photos or images. On your mobile phone, someone is in their happy moments, they're taking photos. And then all of a sudden, someone is able to leak these photos to other people because you have set up your account as a user. And your account, the default setting that I want to speak to those who are watching, the default social media settings are set to be, they are public. When you're on social media, you are in the public domain. That's why we call it the World Wide Web. But then there are other settings which are called private. But many people probably do not know or don't set them that way. And so we've seen to the extent whereby people have been stalked. Some people have been harassed because you are probably a woman on social media and someone will be harassing you. Someone will be coming into your box. Now with the latest social platform, communication platforms like WhatsApp, Telegram, this morning you can wake up and you're in 6 WhatsApp groups. You can be moved to a group without your consent. You get out.
But why don't you check? You do not have power, mandate
now
to stop this if somebody reported?
If someone reported, we can be able to work with the computer emergency response team. But one thing I want to put clear to you is that these are platforms that are not per se Ugandan platforms. These are platforms controlled from another domain. We have domesticated laws in place that can be able to, for example, establish who is this person who is doing this. That is if they have provided the identity. But if they have hidden the identity, you know for a fact that Europe recently was looking at the General Data Protection Regulation, okay? And was looking at things like right for erasure, removing content and information. But the content owner, the platform owner, will not be able to provide this information to you because they believe for them they have set up this platform for communication. So much as we have the laws, like you clearly said, one of your pillars, much as we have the laws, I think we need to stress that we need to give more digital literacy. how do you still keep on these platforms but navigate safely? Okay, and one of the things, for example, is that how often do you look at your footprint? How often do you change your password? Okay, many of us have made the computer to remember us. You know, the computer works on what we call cookies. If you say, remember me, you just only put in your name, Jimmy, and the password will go in. That means that if I know your name, I don't need to master your password.
So somebody watching now and is looking for assurance from UCC, what measures are you putting in place to ensure that Ugandans on these platforms are safe? How are you ensuring cybersecurity for the users?
Okay, the first thing we have been doing is, one is reaching out. And the reach out has been majorly through the consumer parliaments that have been going on regionally. We were affected because of COVID-19, so we couldn't move physically to the people.
That parliament, there are no elections for speaker or something?
No. We just
does UCC choose the...
It's just a discussion. It's more of we encourage the community to be the leaders.
So it's not like the main parliament?
No, it's not like the main parliament. So we encourage the community to be the vanguards of the change and participate.
How can people participate in the parliament?
In different regions. If the parliament is going to happen, for example, in Mbale, it's going to happen in the north, we pass out communication, we go out through TVs and radios, and we encourage people to come in. And then there's a team that does the process of arranging different people together. And we select leaders from different spheres, students, religious leaders, to come in and speak on what are the challenges they are facing. And in that meeting, we normally have the telecoms represented there. We have the platform creators, content creators, and even those who are going into innovation. So that's one avenue. Another, and of course, we've been encouraging people to use the USSD code platforms. For example, we've been running a campaign on, do you know the number of telephone numbers or the MSINDNs that are attributed to your national ID? We've seen an upscale whereby when crime occurs, the person registered in the SIM card is not the possessor of that particular SIM card, or is the possessor of the SIM card, but it is not in their names. And when you follow the real owner, he tells you, I actually registered this SIM card and gave it to my friend who gave it to another person. So we've been encouraging them that very times you need to know the numbers that are under your national ID. And
so people need to be alert.
Need to be alert because someone could be using your identity. And as you know, if I mimic your identity, it means that I will be faking you.
So this practice of you find a stranger and he says, lend me your phone, I need to call somebody. What dangers are there?
It's very dangerous because you don't know whom they are calling. They could be calling a rebel. They could be calling a criminal. They could be communicating offensive information. If someone really wants to make the call, probably you will just have to tell them, register your SIM card and get a SIM card. It's very cheap. A SIM card is about 1,500. But we have seen a proliferation of people now who trade their own identity. Now, those are encouraging crime to be committed because they are using the identity and selling it out. Remember that you will be held liable for that.
You were telling me in the conversation that if somebody borrows your phone and you don't know them, they can even put a malicious app.
Absolutely.
Can you explain?
Yeah, if someone gets your phone, for example, most of our phones are on internet, and says, can I use it for a short while? In that process, they could download an application. We have some of these, what we call malicious applications. These are on Play Store. Some of them are meant for other operations. For example,
so what do those apps do? How
for example, it could install a virus. It could connect to a virus and then could wipe away your content. It could connect to another computer, what we call listening post. And for example, all your communication is leaked to another person without your consent. So all these would be, one, breaching your privacy, because then your communication is no longer with you. Many times people say, when I sent a message so-and-so, another person was able to pick it up. How did they do that? It's just some of these applications. That's why we encourage you, lock your phone. If you're to access some people's phones, once you switch them on like this, you can access it. If you have biometric like this, it's only me who can open this with my fingerprint. If you don't have my fingerprint, you cannot open. All these are extra security that you add on. And then if your accounts are on this mobile phone, you use what we call the two-factor authentication Two-factor means that after I have logged in, I still get a one-time disposable code. So that means that I have different checks and balances because my data is my identity. And my identity,
and if it's stolen,
if it
your
is
identity
stolen,
is stolen as well.
At the same time, I can.
Jimmy, this week we've been celebrating World Consumer Day. World Consumer Day, was it on Monday?
Yes.
As a regulator, what are those milestones you feel you have brought to the table for the consumer over the last couple of years?
The World Consumer Rights Day.
Yeah, Consumer Rights Day.
It's one of the milestones has been, for example, being able to put together the different broadcasting associations to deliver what we call access to information for different players. For example, using our last report of quality of service, we're able to note that now we have more and more people using mobile phones. We've been able to create, for example, the toll-free line, which has been there, but now the number of calls have increased, which is 0800 222 777. And more people have been able to call and complain, and we've been tasking the operator where someone has complained, someone has abused me, we've suspended some of these numbers, pending further verification and investigation. Another issue has been being able to extend now services. You don't have to walk anymore to UCC for some of these services. Many people believe in physically delivering. You can actually sit at your home, write your letter, send it by email, call the toll-free number. You can do the type approval remotely. And then the other one is that we've been able to extend now the communication in the education sector. We've seen with the avalanche of COVID-19 e-learning platforms, we've been able to encourage the operators to extend.
But where are the radios you promised?
Oh, that's another discussion for another day probably. And then looking furthermore, we've seen like now services have reached people closer and closer. And now people can afford some of these communication services without even a worry of time. From anywhere you are, in your village, at your home, you can be able to make the phone calls.
Some people may say that the World Consumer Rights Day will mean nothing if they are still not able to get the full minute. You make a call. We know that the world measure for a full minute is 60 seconds.
Okay.
But some people say some companies, their minute is 50 seconds and so on. And it's a big issue which has not been resolved despite celebrating Consumer Rights Day. What are you doing to tackle an issue like that?
Of course, as we celebrate this day, we keep, they are learning curves, they are learning things. And this is good feedback from, from your side, because this has been raised before and we've put together different parties to harmonize and unify so that we have a universal or unified definition of what this minute is. So this is a take home, I can say, on our side. But I can also...
But you agree that a minute is 60 seconds?
Absolutely. These are international, these are
your clock is the minute 50 seconds?
Absolutely.
It is
60 seconds.
So why does MTN or Airtel say the minute is 55 seconds?
That is now take home on my side to go back and look into this. And I appreciate that these views are coming back. We're going to discuss more. Engagements are going to go on, and they have been always going on to see how we unify. Like I give you a classic example. If you drive from one petrol station to another petrol station, you may see different rates, but it's the same liter of petrol, same liter of diesel. Why different prices?
So you're saying that is why one company will charge 3 minutes, 3 shillings per minute, another will charge 4.
Exactly, but the desire is to unify this.
To unify. What about the bundles? Okay, I don't buy bundles, but some people complain that you buy bundles and then for a certain time, and then they disappear before you have utilized.
Before you have utilized
the data is taken, something like that. I've heard comments.
I've also received those complaints, but many times actually, when a bundle is consumed, there's a graph, there's a consumption graph. Sometimes we have what we call background applications. Some of these smartphones have applications that begin to run immediately once it picks onto data. So it's very good to investigate case by case. If there is such a scenario, I encourage people to call our toll-free number, which I said is 0800 222 You can drop an email at ucc@ucc.co.ug or complaints@ucc.co.ug.
I hope UCC also regulates the digital satellite TV providers.
Yes,
you regulate them. There's also an issue there. Some people are saying, look, we are getting a fake service because you renew your account on DSTV or whatever for a month, and maybe you travel or you don't actually watch the programming. So when you come back, the thing is switched off and you just utilize the week.
Okay,
that's something.
That's an interesting one. It's just like you buy food and put it in the fridge, and then you walk away and you come back and maybe it has gone bad. Or, you know, so when you pay for this pay TV, actually your account is activated. We use the word activated. Once your account is activated, it means you have access to those bundles, to the package for which you have paid for. Now it is
activated.
Yes.
It is activated there for 30 days.
Yes.
Isn't it a requirement that I must also watch for those 30 days? Isn't
now,
it based on usage?
That is now your responsibility as the person who has activated. You have to use this because the service has been brought to you. If you do not watch...
Yes, but doesn't the service check that I've watched for 12 days?
No, really. It's
to?
Activated on period of days. If it's 30 days, when 3-4 days are about to reach, you will receive a notification. Your service subscription is going to expire on this day.
So
okay.
It is irrespective of viewing.
If you
don't view,
and
you don't have power for a week, you cannot get a refund.
No, you will not get a refund because the service has already been provided to you. The rest now is for you. If your TV goes bad, the services will still remain on the decoder. If you don't use them, then it will be unfortunate.
We have seen a practice, we're about to end. We have seen a practice where the telcos, which is good, the telcos have a lot of promotions. They lend people money, 100,000, you can borrow money and then you pay back. They lend them airtime, which for me, that's a financial service.
True.
So my question to you is, does the Uganda Communications Commission issue licenses to telecommunication companies to offer those financial services?
Well, no, we do not go into the issue of the financial services and the dynamics because you know for a fact now we have the National Payments Act, which is now the responsibility of central bank in terms of regulating financial issues to do with mobile money and so on and so forth. So we regulate you in terms of providing the service.
Do you have the tribunal established where you can hear complaints from the public?
No, that is something still being, it's a
so
work
where
in
will
progress.
They come now?
We have a responsibility to arbitrate and hear their matters. We have a whole legal-fledged team that can arbitrate. They have even been given now prostitution license by the DPP. So they have the ability. If you are not satisfied, then you can escalate it in the different frameworks. Tribunal is something still being discussed, Fred, and I believe probably it's something that is being agitated for by the consumers and the subscribers.
Yeah, we've been agitating.
And I think it is the right timing now.
For the last, I remember the first time I wrote about it, the minister was Nasasira.
Okay.
That's more than 20 years ago.
Wow.
And he promised at that time that they would be putting it in place.
And some steps have been taken.
Some steps have been taken. So with the issue of financial services, maybe I would suggest that the UCC checks with the co-regulator, Bank of Uganda. Of the financial service. I'm also aware that the National Payments Law has been made. I don't know to what extent it has been implemented because it was passed last year.
It was passed last year around September.
But the reason we raise all this, Jimmy, is because there is a risk associated with trading or doing money transactions. If they are not regulated and the consumer loses, then they might not have a place to run to.
Absolutely.
Which can cause an issue. The last one really you should comment on. Consumers do not really appreciate the importance of protection of their data, of their information, of their pictures, which are stored, carried on the mobile handsets. How can you advise or educate them on how they should enjoy this right of data protection and privacy?
I think one of the things you need to know as a consumer, every time you are linking your primary account, if you have an Android, for example, an Android phone, or you have an iOS phone, you have an account, say Gmail account, that account is integrated to your different accounts. And so one of the things you need to put is authentication, verification before any other person, because you don't want unauthorized access to your content. So we encourage all, if possible, all of us should use the two-factor authentication. In one or the other, your password could be cracked, but if you have your device with you, then you are safe. If your phone gets stolen, we've been running a campaign on blocking stolen phones, because we have seen an increase that once these phones are stolen, many times this information is taken away by the scrupulous people who have stolen it, but also they will abuse your identity. Now, to kill the incentive of leakage of information from stolen phones, we encourage the blocking of that phone so that it never works anymore. In that way, it cannot make the calls. The other bit of it that I would want to continue pushing is that as much as possible, let us limit the amount of personal information we are posting on public accounts, because some of this information, which is very personal to you, may be used against you to malign you, to misinform.
So you're telling people not to post pictures, party for the child on Facebook, Snapchat.
If you can,
I am at the airport. Ugandans are fond of that. Every step, I'm now having breakfast. I'm now at Java House.
Yes.
I'm going to the bank.
I've just maybe given birth.
So you say that is and then posting children's pictures.
Yes,
so the identity of children is. You think this also eventually leads to cyberbullying?
Yeah, some of these have been abused, and children have been abused, others have been stalked. I think we need to know that these platforms, much as they are for the public, we also have our private life to live. So if you can maintain the private life within point-to-point communication, close groups that you are chatting with, those that you have verified. Some people come into your accounts or into your Twitter or into your Facebook and you don't know about them. But they have all become your friend. Friends of your friends become your friends. That means you don't even know who is your friend.
It's an open field out there. But I imagine it's very difficult in this era where everybody is a reporter, the phone cameras,
journalists.
Everybody, the media houses would like to be the first to break the story and so on. It must be very, very challenging to regulate content.
It's quite an
and fake news.
It's such an upheaval task for sure, I must say, because the communication facility now enables you, as long as your handle is available, you can report it. You may not actually be reporting in the capacity of the media house, but because you work for this media house, they will actually believe it's the truth. And so many times people want the fake news. The fake news is what people want to believe in because it's so appealing and interesting to them.
Talking about fake news as we close, though it's on a sad note, yesterday we lost one of the leaders, a great leader, President of Tanzania, Magufuli, the people's bulldozer.
Oh, sure.
But it's so sad that he had to depart and pass on so early. But in respect of fake news, if you follow that story, you will see that from the official channel, some people, I think the Prime Minister came up and said, I was with the president just a few days ago. He's okay.
He's fine.
And there were even threats to arrest anybody spreading the rumor about his sickness or death. And then all of a sudden, boom, it turns up that he's actually passed on. Don't you see that to the extent that fake news sometimes originates from official channels, complicates regulating it actually? Because it was actually fake. The departed leader was actually not well, and it actually turned out he died. But now the official communication was that he's okay and you'll be arrested for talking about it. This happens a lot.
It happens a lot
in governments across. So it becomes a challenge then, if you are asking people to be in line Don't you think it becomes a challenge?
It's a challenge. I think what we're asking people for is three things. Always, whenever you receive any piece of information, do not be hurried. Don't be in a hurry to forward it. Don't be in a hurry to escalate it. Find out, verify. You can consult. There are certain media houses that have content. They know the ethics of how to communicate. And so, but there is this other interest that whatever I pick, I must forward. And you know, you're always forwarding. Have I forwarded to this group? So sometimes you don't know what you are escalating. So you're telling
people not to forward
before they verify.
Before it's verified.
If you don't have the ability to verify, consume it, but don't be an agent, because you do not know.
We are social animals, Jimmy.
Yes.
If
today,
I get
what
something
you think is fake,
intriguing, I'll send to my friend Jimmy. I think it's a natural.
And then he will send to another one, and another one, another one, and that's what we call viral. Most of the time, content on social platforms is viral.
That's how it gets
and it
viral.
can be two-edged. It can be for your positive good or for the negative. So it's just a practice that we need to keep. It's kind of what I can call the social media culture, which we have to build in ourselves.
Jimmy, we have to end here. The producer says we are spoken enough, but it was important that we had you here. We are happy to know that the UCC is actually doing something. I'm excited about the consumer parliaments.
Thank you.
I hope we shall be able to participate. I don't know when the next
we shall communicate. We will need you guys on board, because you're doing quite a great job. You're reaching a bigger spec, and what you're doing is great, because talking about counterfeit is something we live with every single day. Every single day someone's saying about a counterfeit shoe, a counterfeit car, a counterfeit everything. So we need to protect the consumers, because me and you are consumers of these services. If we do not know, then our children are going to consume counterfeit stuff.
Your closing part to consumers of telecommunication service.
I'm so excited that we are getting this feedback, because every time you get feedback, it helps you to grow. And we are not yet there, but we know where we are going. I'll only tell you that many times, let's be on a safeguard. One of the things I didn't tell you, we have a fact checker for your IMEA on the UCC website. You can dial *#06#. The numbers you get, please punch them into the IMEA checker. Confirm that the model and the make and type matches the physical handset you have. If it doesn't match, you are actually using a counterfeit device, and so you may need to rethink and get another one so that you are safe. Thank you so much.
Okay, so until the next episode, this has been a conversation that I have had with Mr. Jimmy Haguma, Chief Security Officer at the Uganda Communications Commission. I'm sure you have heard everything that you needed to hear in respect of what the UCC is doing to ensure that you have safe and quality communication services. He concedes there is some more work which needs to be done to improve the service. On our part, as I said bye, I should say thank you again for your feedback. Thank you for watching us. Remember that this program can be accessed on our Facebook page, on Twitter. We also have a channel, just punch in Anti-Counterfeit Network, and there you will see us every Friday from 8 p.m. Thank you and bye.
Thank you.